Hello, it is good to be back. Here I am, back doing art videos. Do you remember at the start of this year when I said I was going to focus on my art more than my other videos? Because I didn't do that. Maybe I should start filming my sketches and studies as well as full drawings, because then I might have more of this type of video. I really am an opportunistic video maker. I film things as they happen in my life, and I don't often get around to doing things that I plan, if that makes sense. Most of my makeup videos are just looks I was wearing that day anyway and decided to film, because if I'm going to be sitting there putting on makeup anyway, I might as well film it, right? Obviously, all of my vlogs are just things that I happen to be doing that day anyway and decided to film. The vampire vlogs are the closest thing I have to planned videos, and I make those very sporadically, just whenever I have time in between the stuff that I was doing anyway, and mostly because the ideas I have for those kind of come in bursts. My point is, so far all my art videos are just of things I was going to draw anyway, and maybe that's what needs to change. Maybe I need to start doing things for the purposes of a video. Maybe I should start drawing something specifically to film it and put in a little more effort on that front rather than just filming whatever I was going to do that day anyway. Let me know what you think of that. Because if I could get the hang of doing that, then I could maybe do tutorials or I don't know what else. Let me know what you'd like to see me do. I'm going to work on it. Will I actually go through with it? Who knows? But I'll certainly work on it. In the meantime, all the test copies of my colouring book have been sold. If you haven't seen anything about that, or if this is the first video of mine you're watching, then go and get caught up on what's happening with the colouring book I'm making. Because I am now working on the final version for a full print run. I really can't thank you enough, everyone who bought a copy, and to all my patrons. You guys are the reason this is happening. If you're not a patron yet and you'd like to support me, I'd really appreciate it a lot. I haven't had Patreon for very long, and I'm still not, I'm not an expert on using it, but I am working on it. I do have a lot of stuff up there for patrons. And if you support me, you'll get special discount codes for my book and for prints and for everything that's in my shop. And other stuff too. You'll get a special say on polls and whatever else. Anyway, today I'm just drawing another random vampire. Not very surprising, I know. I have kind of a theme in my life. But I've been practicing drawing faces. In a previous video, I mentioned the fact that I am faceblind, so I really have no way of properly understanding what I'm drawing. The only real way to learn it is to measure out all the features of a face from a reference and then just trust in that process, because I don't really understand what I'm doing or how to make it look right or what makes it look wrong. So I have to just trust in the process of it, which is, it's a strange feeling, because for everything else, obviously I can look at it and I can tell, if it looks right. If I'm drawing a flower or even clothes or a whole person, I can look at them and say, oh, that pose is wrong, or that flower looks weird. And it's something you can do when you're drawing, but not for a face, because I'm face blind. I just don't understand. So I've been doing loads of studies where I just measure everything out perfectly from a reference and try and copy it, but I don't really know if I'm getting it right. So I'm going to have to trust you guys to tell me if I'm getting it right or not. I even printed out some references and then stuck them to the window so that I could put my paper over it and sketch over them and trace my reference onto the paper through a window. I don't know if you've ever seen people doing that before, but it's a thing. It's a thing that we do. But of course you can't do a whole drawing like that standing up against a window. So I still have to like trust my hands and my subconscious to memorize how far apart things should be and what size facial features are. And you know, eventually you have to just go side by side and work on it the old-fashioned way. The really frustrating part is I have no way of knowing if I'm improving. Not really. So I'm going to leave that to you guys to let me know if you think this looks more human than my previous drawings, or also let me know if you think it's worse. Let me know if you think I've gone too strange with it, because that's valuable feedback as well, because I really have no way of knowing if other people don't tell me. I mean, I used to just draw really weirdly stylized faces or cover them up with a mask or something and avoid it, and that's quite fun too. It can be an interesting style, but it would just be nice to be able to draw a person's face, I suppose. Watching this video back and watching me draw all those tiny little lines in is making my hands hurt all over again. I like that style and I love the results, that's why I do it. But wow, it takes forever and it makes your hands hurt so much. But I think it's worth it. I did scan this piece before I started doing all of the hatching and the black parts, because I might include the line art for this in another future colouring book. You never know. And I really could have called this one finished when it was black and white, but I'd intended to put colour in it from the start, so I still went ahead with that. It is drawn on watercolour paper because I'd always planned to put colour in it. But, you know, if I wanted to leave it black and white, I could have, it's nice to have that option, I suppose. I'm using my vintage watercolour paints here. Ever since I bought these, they've become my go-to paints. They're just fun to use because the vintage tin is just aesthetically pleasing to me. And it's interesting to know that these paints are older than me and I don't know who used them before me. It's just an interesting thought, really. So my plan for the colours here was to just do red, black and white and red, and then highlights in gold, because I'm going to do a counterpart piece that's black and white with green and then highlights in silver. That piece will probably be up next week or the week after, but this one is red and gold, which is maybe slightly unusual for me. It's not that unusual because I always do things in 2s or sometimes 3s. You will see that in my art videos. I do this all the time. But usually I put silver with red and gold with green. So I'm mixing it up today. Right? That counts. Also, for the gold highlights, I'm going to use the Goldest Gold paint by Stuart Semple. I absolutely love all of his paints, and I have every single one. I've done a painting before on this channel using the Blackest Black pigment, and that was really fun. I absolutely love those paints. I have the Pinkest Pink, and I have the blue one, and I have the 2 glow-in-the-dark ones. They're really fun to use, and they really are bright, you know? They really are the brightest paints I've ever seen. Here we go now with the gold. It's It doesn't really show up properly on camera, obviously because it's metallic, so you kind of need to see it in the light, but it really is the shiniest metallic paint I've ever used. It's a lot of fun. So thank you for being here. I hope you stick around to see next week's video, which will be the counterpart to this one. Oh, I forgot to mention, some of you might recognise this brooch that I've drawn on this character. It's based on Puvithel's OG brooch, which I have a few of and I've done a review of. So if you want to see the brooch that this is based on, I will link to my video about it. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I completely forgot. Whoops. Better late than never, right? Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every weekend. Bye!